And we are live. Back for episode club this week. This week we are covering season 2, episode 8, The Prince of Winterfell. Joining me today are the two that joined me last week, also known as both together, the Cylon Johns, Jonte Baptiste and Johnny Be Crazy. So introduce yourselves before we go into this episode.
Why, thank you, Jill. Sasa, for having me on the panel. This was a pretty damn good episode. A lot of nuance in this episode. Something definitely had to talk about that is pretty exciting. Of course, I'm trying to be crazy. And my theme for this week is Theon is sharp as a bowling ball, if you can't see by my banner. And I'd like to say hey to everyone in the chat, and thank you so much for having me on the panel.
I'm John St. Baptiste. Thanks for having me once again. I feel like I've been here for pretty much all of season 2, which is kind of nice. We're going into our busy season at work in about a month, so I won't be able to join you quite as often. So it's nice to be able to be here. Um, yeah, nuanced. That's a great way to put this episode. It's got some amazing dialogue. Uh, this it's spot on. It's way up there. My theme for this week is I don't think anybody dies. Well, except for some like random Lannister red shirts,
Yeah, that's about it.
and they don't count. They aren't people.
Right.
No.
Go ahead, Sasa.
Yeah, so the episode description for this episode, because we're trying something new this week. So the episode description or plot for this episode is at Winterfell, Theon receives a visitor, holds down the fort. Arya asks about her final debt, and in a way that displeases him, Robb is betrayed. Tyrion and Varys find common ground, and Dany ignores Jorah's advice, while Stannis and Davos approach their final destination, and Davos is rewarded. So, and tidbit of information, this episode came out May 20th, 2012. So we have, it's been a while since this episode aired on TV, and might as well start with the first scene of this episode, which is we're back in Winterfell, and we see that all the ravens have been killed, and Asha slash Yara arrives, and she basically tells him that, yeah, you've taken Winterfell and that's great, but this isn't going to be like where we permanently settle. And we don't belong really in the north because it's too far from the sea. And this is where they also talk about Bran and Rickon and how he's killed them. But Yara also tells him it's like, you've killed the Liege Lord's youngest son, so they're not going to be happy too much with you. And he doesn't really care too much. And some pretty good quotes are kind of said in this, like don't die so far from the sea, and come with me or you won't die. So what do we think about the beginning of this episode?
Well, it's for me. I mean, especially you watching and retrospectively and reading and so forth. This is when Theon gets his out. Like all the horrible things that happen to him, which make his character development and so forth. He could have avoided if he had just been like, yeah, you're right. I'm trying to hold Winterfell with 20 dudes. And he, gets all, oh, I'm doing it. And, my other big takeaway that I really liked from this is when Yara, is like, this isn't our place. You're hundreds of miles from the sea. And when she pulls him aside and has the little conversation, like not the like, hey, I'm shaking my sword around in front of my men conversation, but the little private conversation that she has with him, and she's like, we both loved our mother, we both tolerated, endured. endured our father. And you really see that, like, yeah, she's a total hard ass, but she actually really cares about Theon. Like, she realizes what dumb C he is. In fact, she's very loud and vocal about it in front of her men. Sorry, I gotta watch that word around Sassy Sansa.
Lol.
But no, her whole monologue where she drops like 5 C bombs, I love. I think it's great. But you know, she really does care about him. Like, she thinks he's a dumb idiot, but you know, she does give a damn.
Well, he really knows nothing about his own culture, and he shows that. In this, we see that like boldface in this episode. They are reavers. They live by the sea. Their strength is ships. To your point, John. I mean, she comes in like, which one gave you the tougher fight, the cripple or the 6-year-old? And no truer words can be spoken. It's as we see, and this is definite foreshadowing and how easily manipulated Theon is. Like Dagmar Cleftjaw just threw some peer pressure at him, and he folds like a lawn chair under pressure every single time. It's like he can't even make a decision for himself, and the ones he does make for himself are just with his member. Uh, that's it. That's all he is until he gets it taken away. It's very poetic. And Yara, shout out to Asha. I wish they wouldn't have changed all that shit. It does not confuse me, and it does not sound like OSHA. Two different names. Anyways, but she is a badass. You see how smart she is. You see that even the Iron Island or the Ironborn don't really see her as a woman. Not until later when she decides to try to run to be at the King's Moot, tries to be queen. And it's really telling of who she is and what she had to go through. She's basically the only heir that was there, right? At in the Iron Islands for Balon. So she basically took on the role of the son. Uh, could it
Well,
have
man
been
or
forced?
woman, I'm sorry, John. I didn't mean to interrupt you. My
No,
apologies.
just the last thing I was gonna say is it could it have been forced a little bit by Balon, wanting her to be the son he never had kind of thing. We'll never know. But either way, she's awesome. She's one of my favorite characters.
Well, I was just gonna say, man or woman, they see her as their captain. Like, and her gender doesn't matter. Like, they see her as their captain, whereas these guys who are following Theon see him in a slightly lesser light. You know, it's like, yeah,
Well,
he took Winterfell and so forth, but
he's a
he
substitute
hasn't.
teacher.
Yeah, that's a damn good way to put it. It's a really damn good way to put it. Yeah, he's a substitute teacher, and the kids are gonna mess off in class. They're gonna just see what they can get away with and so forth. You know, I said this phrase on another stream of ours, but Yara, Asha, whichever term you'd like to use. I mean, she's the iron fist inside the velvet glove. You know, and we're all sneezing tonight. I caught that, Mackenzie.
Bless you. May the lords of Cobalt bless you.
Yes.
And Johnny passed his cold to all of us.
Yeah.
I did.
He's gotten all of us sick.
It's
Yeah.
digitally
For the interwebs.
transferable. This is new virus.
It's a digital virus. Yeah, in this scene you kind of really see again Yara's strength and how basically Balon was like treated her like a son but also knew the limitations of her as a daughter. Obviously, and then at this point too, I believe is when she tells him like how when he was a baby he would cry and cry and cry and cry, and when he looked at her, he would stop crying. So that's like a whole thing of, even as like a small child, he like looked up to her in some way, and it's almost like that moment of just trying them to bond again, because it's essentially they were separated from when he was like 9, 10 years old, and she was probably like, what, 11, maybe 12 years old. So it's kind of like that whole thing of bonding with a sibling that you never really got to bond with. So like they're trying to do that, and then also
Oh,
keep
he bonded with her on that horse, all right.
very true. But it's just like get like kind of, because they stepped really forward and then they had to step back again. So it's trying to like deal with that, and then pretty much the last scene in this episode is the second Theon scene for this.
Look at that pretty face of Cleftjaw right there. Isn't that just beautiful? That's Theon's mentor right now. What a good mentor he is. Oh, I wanted to say something about the first part.
Yep.
You know, when all the ravens were murdered. I thought that's hilarious and kind of, I guess, ironic, since a flock of ravens is a murder of ravens.
Ha.
Yeah. Murder of ravens.
Yeah. Murder of ravens and a murder.
That's my bland humor.
Rooks, which are also corvids, and I'm rather fond of, are called a parliament of rooks.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's always interesting the different names that they give.
And then you have a gaggle of geese. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, right. Corvids get all the cool ones. Like a parliament of rooks, a murder of crows, or a murder of ravens. What is it? I can't remember what a group of crows is called. But yeah, corvids get the good press.
Yeah, it's like trying to go funny. But in this like ending scene, we have Dagmar and Theon basically discuss the farmer who, like, because he wants to give him money, because Theon had killed the farmer's sons, or the adoptive sons, I guess you could call it, the orphans, from 2-3 episodes ago, and Lewin's like in the courtyard of Winterfell, and he spots Yara going in to the crypts of Winterfell with a bunch of bread. Obviously, it's like, you weren't supposed to be here. And then, obviously, through conversation and dialogue, we find out how Osha was able to get away so far and then come back, and with the dire wolves and everything. And they talk about the fact that there's orphan boys have been murdered, and we see Bran overhearing this conversation, and it's him understanding that he is now presumed to be dead and to be killed by Theon. It's really like an emotional moment, and it was really sad. My kind of point on this, it's just because there's a point in time where obviously Bran is 10, 11 maybe now in the show, and he's just finding out that basically, even though he is very much alive, that this person that he's known for his entire life has taken his castle and has basically made another body pretend it's him, and and his little brother, and that they're pretty much murdered and dead to the north. And yeah, and then there's like in the shadows, it's Hodor and Rickon cuddles. Like, come on, kind of cute.
That's very funny. To your point, I kind of start a little bit back, and I'll just say the quotes. Dagmar, when Theon tries to hand him a gold, what's this? Gold for the farmer, for his trouble. His troubles are done. He's feeding the crops now. His wife too. You want to keep the man silent? You silence him. And the look on Theon's face is, to me, it's, why should he be so stunned? God, he knows the man by this point. And right there, Theon tries to be somewhat good again, I guess, to kind of cover his conscience, I would say. But then he doesn't even get that chance to, which I think is a nice strike to Theon's soul, so to speak. And back, Bran basically has successfully faked his own death. Bran and Rickon, not not of their own doing, but they have, and you can see this is another metaphorical death, like another metaphorical death for Bran, and it's ends the show on this, and it's supposed to be super impactful for Bran. He hears Osha over talking it, right? But later on, I mean, this does not really affect Bran in the long run. He right now he's just emotionless. Well, he isn't even Bran anymore. So he goes through these. We'll see it throughout the season. These stages of metaphorical deaths, which I think is very nice. John.
It actually just literally occurred to me, but the name of the episode a few episodes ago was "Kill a Boy,"
Mm-hmm.
and 3 of the 4 Stark boys, in their own way, kind of have to do that this episode. I think it's something that kind of ties it together.
Even Theon Stark.
Yeah, you could even say 4 because yeah, I mean Theon. I mean, who's raised by them? Theon. I think at that point where he's told that in the show the farmer and his wife are dead. I think he's starting to really realize that he should have listened to his sister, and he's written a lot of checks with his mouth that he can't cash with his ass. I don't know if that's a colloquialism that's anybody else here is familiar with, but my
Yeah,
grandpa used to say that all the time.
I've heard it
But
many a times.
he's really starting to realize, like, I've opened a door I really can't close, and I can't go back to who I was, and there are going to be consequences for this, not just on his conscious, but eventually there are, beyond his conscious consequences for this.
Yeah, and you can't even see it until freaking Yara gets there and has to tell him straight up. Or, yeah, I mean, it takes forever for this kid to have a lesson sink in his brain. That's for damn sure.
Right, and then when she shows up and she tells him the way things should, like he doesn't even listen to her. He doesn't even bother to because his hubris, and he wants to make Daddy happy.
Yeah, because he never made Alan happy before at this point. Yeah, and it's almost that thing too, where it's like we've said before, Osha is the best mother Bran and Rickon have ever had, and although Catelyn tries to be a good mother in this episode, which we'll get to at some point, Osha
She is better in the books.
Yeah.
I have to. I'm doing a hard reread. She's better in the books, but still.
Yeah, like at this, like for the 6-year-old and the crippled 11-year-old, she's doing pretty good, especially since she was part of the people that was going to kill Bran. So she's doing pretty well for herself, and the fact that Lewin is still so trusting with her and Bran and Rickon shows how much her character has changed in only like about a season ish.
Well, she's a straight up survivor too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I mean more than anything. Yeah, agreed.
you have to respect Osha. No doubt. No doubt.
And also in that final scene, like Maester Lewin, he's a gray rat I could almost grow to like and respect. Still a gray rat. I don't trust him, but
I still feel like he kept some secrets. He didn't let through. He definitely lied to Bran about the dreams and shit. But anyways, don't want to trail off here.
Yeah. So the next scene, if we're done kind of talking about these ones, because we can kind of come back to a little bit with the other characters throughout this episode, is Jon.
Polar bears. Oh.
no white polar bears. That happens in season 7, because they wanted them so freaking badly, although they would have had them in this season anyway. We have Jon Snow, Ygritte, and they meet with that like mini crew that they developed in the last episode. Meet with the Lord of Bones, and they talk about the crew that Half Hand was with, Mance Raider, and again Ygritte. Talk about balls, as well as being even, because now they've both been captured by people that are their crews. And he talks with Half Hand, and they discuss death. And Half Hand tells him it's like basically don't let their deaths be the vain. You have to basically live on because of them, not just for them, but because of the fact that they died. You now have to carry on and be like survive and carry on and continue what you're supposed to do, kind of thing. And because these scenes in this episode kind of lead on to episode 10, my memory serves me correctly, where they have that big battle between John and Half Hand. But anyways, we can talk about that. So yeah.
Yeah, you want to? Yeah, we can go through all of
So,
these things. I just want to say real quick. I'll hand it off to. Oh, go ahead.
no, because it's like the neck. There's just like a smaller scene
Yeah.
after this, but it's just basically that they're going through, like they're walking in the snow, and that pretty much they're discussing like what they have to do next, and like a miniature, like not a fight, it's like an argument like breaks up between the two of them, and then like John is like knocked off. But then like Eager's just standing there, because like you get this whole time is like cradling Longclaw. She's like like she's like if she could and not fall, she'd probably be skipping while she's holding this whole thing. But yeah, so now she has Longclaw in their hands, and yeah, these two scenes, even though they're kind of small, they set up for what happens in episode 10, which is kind of cool. Oh, what do I want to do? Talk about.
Well, I'll just say a couple things and throw it off to John. There are metaphors galore in here. Egret literally has John by his sword, and it returns a life for a life favor there. Something that's funny is old rattle shirt or Lord of Bones. He says he's gonna castrate John if he tries to run. I just think that's funny, given how easily Tormund beat the living shit out of him at Hardhome later. Lord of Bones talks a lot of smack. Even in the books, he ended up being like this real frail man, if I'm not mistaken, under all those bones. But anyways, uh, yeah, go ahead, John. I'll chime back in with my 2 cents if it's worth anything.
Your 2 cents is always worth far more than 2 cents. I think Rattleshirt, almost it's kind of funny that it leads into this, because I've always thought of Rattleshirt as like Theon with a dick. Like pre-torture Theon.
Yeah, he's still alive, a little older than Theon probably, so he's slightly smarter. I would say slightly. Just
Right, but
slightly.
he's all tough. He's all bark, and there's really no bite behind it. He acts like a badass, and he's done a few cool things, so like people kind of respect him, but nobody really respects him. And you know, uh, yeah, there's a lot of symbolism in these scenes, and I think Quarren, going into, I really liked how Quarren's like, the only way you're going to do this is to show that, you're going to turn your cloak and so forth. And he sets it up for that. Like he sets it up for it. And, John being the, he gets like 2 pouts in this episode. It's a little under his normal, first 3 season level of pouts. but he does get two good pouts in, and when he's knocked down the hill, he gets really good pout in there. I don't understand.
I
And you all
never
know
slept with Egret.
I'm not a Jon Snow hater, but you know what I'm talking about his pout. Nobody can pout like Kit Harington. I mean, they even make a joke about it, and I think it's season 7. When what Dinklage is like,
Yeah,
You're
you
just
can
brooding.
jealous
brood
of
so
me,
much better
John.
than me.
This is
Just,
brooding, yeah.
just
You
very
are
jealous,
brooding.
John. I gotta go to bottle.
But yeah, I mean,
Sorry.
and also yeah, it's Ygritte pays her debts, and you both know, and I'm sure anybody who follows these discussion knows, like, I'm the biggest Ygritte fanboy in the world. I think she's great.
That means
I really
Ollie's
love.
like your fave.
No, Ollie should have been given over to the Magnars.
That was a shit scene. I'm sorry. Ollie kills her and then goes, basically, just like, gotcha, Jack.
Yeah, he's like, and then it's just like, no. But when we get to that,
They could have made Ollie
Yeah,
sandwiches,
we'll talk about that later.
Ollie brisket.
The Ollie
You know,
Seniors was made into a sandwich, but we'll talk about that.
when we get to that, which will be coming, we'll discuss that coming soon. So I have that, and pretty much, if we want to talk about this now, we can talk about the other scene that's beyond the wall, which I know Johnny and I had. You were talking about this. We kind of were just like, what? When it happens. So the scene beyond the wall, the other one that's not involves John, is Sam Pip, not Sam Pip, Sam, Gren, and Ed discuss John while digging for latrines and the half hand. But then while digging, Gren finds a spiral sigil beneath the dragon beneath dragon glass is in a White Walker cloak, but there's also a horn. And let's talk about
it's in a Night Watch cloak.
Night's Watch cloak. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna say
Go ahead.
Oh, my bad. Okay. So here's the little spiral symbol. Woohoo, yeah. That symbolizes many things. It's kind of like an infinity symbol. A snake eating its tail. It kind of represents the universe. It also, as we've seen, kind of represents where the Night King was possibly made. But to the real point, Grin does dig this up, and I think in the books, doesn't Ghost find it and Sam dig it up, John? Anyways, this horn.
I believe you're correct. Yes.
I've seen this horn 1,000 times, and I never noticed there was volcanoes and dragons hanging upside down on it. Now, this definitely isn't the Horn of Winter, and we would think it's not Dragonbinder, right? Because Dragonbinder's huge. What the hell is this horn? It's definitely come from Valyria. It has the Doom of Valyria on it, or at least Valyria. You see volcano, not the Doom, but you see volcanoes and dragons hanging upside down. And I don't know, it got me thinking a little more. I know they haven't come back to the horn, but Sam has to have the horn, right?
I think the horn's going to be discussed a lot more in the books. I think in the show it was kind of like maybe just a little bit of fan service. Um, I think
Well,
if
that's what the
something would
Doom
have
of
happened
Valyria.
with it, no, I'm just saying I think if something would have happened with it, it would have happened by now in the show. I mean, we've only got 6 episodes left. I think
I wonder if it could kill dragons, like
I'm
all
not positive
dragons.
about it. It's just that's my gut feeling, is that it was a bit of, at least for me, that was my immediate gut feeling.
So I'll just throw out my stupid tinfoil and say that if we do see it, it's possible that it maybe kills dragons. There doesn't seem any indication. Other than that, it would be like Dragon Binder. I'm trying to figure out why the dragons would be on there, but we could, if it does come back, we maybe someone does blow it. If Bran finds out if you blow it, it kills all the dragons in the vicinity. They have to kill every dragon to save everyone, possibly. I could see something like that. I'm just trying to figure out. Soren kind of blew my mind. I've seen it and didn't really pay much attention because it never came back up. Go ahead, Kenzie.
Well, there's that reason why in Fire and Blood they discuss why Silverwing can't go beyond the wall. We don't know how well. We know on a map how far the wall is from the Fist of the First Men, but in like like a space of time, like how long it would take. So maybe it's a thing of maybe if that is Dragon Binder, that it's just like a thing that it's like doesn't go beyond there because of the possibility that like but there's that potential for like it being uncovered and discovered. I don't know if they'll bring it up in the show again, but I feel like because Sam was reading that book about where they found the dragon glass and they found what the dagger, like about the dagger, that there could be a thing that like if by some chance they kept it. I can't remember if they keep all of this or not, but if they brought it to Castle Black, that there could be that thing where Sam like goes and gets to that page and then sees that horn, because Sam literally remembers like every single thing. So it's like he looks at it and then just like it triggers something, because we're supposed to believe that the Horn of Winter is supposed to be so much bigger, or the Dragon Binder is supposed to be so much bigger. But like, yeah, it's kind of discussing. It's an adaptation of a horn, so they made it smaller, also to fit inside the cloak. So it's a possibility it could be brought up because Sam likes to look through books and find out things. So
The thing is, Sam gave John the cloak with the dragon glass in it to take to Harm home, if I'm not mistaken. He handed it out there. We didn't see
if there was
the horn, and I know in the books it has a crack in it. This one I can't tell, but it's possibly has it. All Bran has to do is touch it, and they would know what the hell it's to be used for. But they could use that as some plot armor, that's for sure. But the fact that it hasn't come up at all, we haven't seen like a horn in any of the carvings, or haven't heard any legends of a horn anymore. Kind of makes me bummed out. Maybe we're talking about it for no reason, but still cool.
You never know, because the only really horn that they talk about is the horn on the wall for the night to watch, where they blow it 3 times, one for friends, one for foes, one there. What is it? One for rangers, one for wildlings, and one for White Walkers, or 3 for Light Walkers. So like they've only had really like one horn to deal with. So if they bring it up again, I wouldn't be surprised. But because everybody just focuses on the dragon glass, no one really focuses as much anymore on this horn. So maybe there's something to it. Who knows? Or like we're doing like every single thing and looking at every single thing and what it could potentially be. Who knows? We have that. So that was that scene.
Oh, and also I just want to throw.
Go ahead, John.
Jinx. Sorry. I wanted to throw out that Sam was pretty much the only one that believed John was still alive at this point as well. Go ahead.
Very true. Oh, I just want to say, anytime Dolores Head gets a chance to talk, I love it. Like the Eeyore of the Night's Watch, you know, you gotta love Dolores Head. He's just.
Yeah.
You know, what is it? Gren's whinging and moaning about digging latrine pits, and he's like, "You could be doing a lot worse."
On the books, they're looking for petrified turds to burn for a fire. So he.
Yeah,
very true.
So you win some, you lose some, and that time they just happened to do stuff. And yeah, we thought that was a pretty. Me and John thought that was pretty pivotal, because who knows, may come back, or we may learn more about what the horn actually looks like. You never know. But the next, I guess, scene, if we're going back to more of a chronological order, is Robb and the Lannister spy, aka Talissa, discuss the other woman in their developing relationship, being who we know now as Rosalind Frey. This is where she starts to continue to plant more seeds of being a spy. They talk about Ned, and they talk about justice and bravery, and they also find out that Jaime has not escaped, but Catelyn has let him go. Yeah, so we can talk about this lovely, like, 2-ish scenes together. So,
I tell you what, she says some suspicious stuff. I'm gonna let you go first, John, because I got some juice for this one.
Well, we've just another reason to have absolute contempt for Catelyn Stark. I mean, seriously, very poorly thought out decision. Her heart was in the right place, but a lot of people can say that about very poorly thought out decisions. And then Robb, it's kind of interesting because this is the hinge on the door to Robb's downfall. Up until this point, he's kind of but then don't piss off bitter old men. Like, you've met this dude. You know how much of a petulant, bitter old person he is. My father works in a retirement community. I know how petulant old people can be. Like, people who are Frey's age can be. Like, oh, Robb, come on, man. Like, I know you're 14 in the book, 17 in the show, but come on, you're Theon in this shit, and you just really, keep it in your pants, dude. Just keep it in your pants. Things would have gone a lot better if Robb had just, I don't know, went and had a little private time or something like that. Um, I'm really on the fence about the whole she's a spy thing. Like, I can see both sides.
Oh, I'm about to give you some evidence. Go ahead.
Oh, I know, I know you are, and you have before, and that's why I'm like 50-50.
Oh, this is damning evidence right here. This is
25.
In court, a lawyer would be like, "I got you on this one."
The one thing for me that comes later is the baby at the red wedding. That I think kind of, I don't know, but that's my, like I said, I've seen really good arguments on both sides with that.
Let me say something to that real quick. We learned
Yeah.
this episode the only way to keep someone silent is to silence them. We learned that from Dagmar. Now, throughout this episode, she really questions Robb about everything. Robb knows for a fact how important this is. He said a lord is a father to thousands of people. Talks about how much he learned from his father. Does the right thing by locking Catelyn up. Then we hear the story of how she became a healer. Well, she was in, oh my God, why is it going in my head right now?
Volantis.
She was in Volantis, right? She went down to the Rhine with her brother. Her brother drowned. Now, while she's in Volantis, were there not, what was that, harpists or singers playing for coppers? There's no such thing as drummers for coppers. There's no coppers in Volantis.
There were drummers.
But they don't play for coppers, so.
But yeah, there's only coppers are only in Westeros for one. She keeps asking him all these questions, and she literally knows that he has to do this or he could lose this war, that he could lose his men, but she still keeps going through it. These letters she keeps writing, and I got thrown off. throw in some stuff there, Sasa, while I look at my notes real quick.
Yeah, like what you pointed out was being a lord is like being a father, and it's important because John was probably not taught that exact thing, but he was probably taught a similar thing because they could bring it up. And like a man is brave, like a man being afraid, that's the only time a man can be brave. And when he's talking to her, she is like acting like she understands a lot of the Westerosi culture, but she comes from a house called House My. Like the thing is, she comes from House
Mygor.
Mygor,
Mygir.
which
Yeah, whatever it is.
it's kind of easy if Rob kind of forgets certain things because Bran doesn't remember certain sigils and house names. But for like Catelyn to not know, like she's probably was taught all this time, and she was probably there maybe with like when the kids were being taught all of this, like to not know that about House Mygear and that if she's supposed to be this lord of a lord's daughter, that should be well known. Um, and
Also, you have to take into consideration that this isn't the book character
yeah,
No, this
but
is
it's like
purely
yeah,
a
they're just
by
show.
any
trying to put
means
it
remotely.
yeah, because it's like obviously different, but it's like relatively a similar situation. But yeah, she has like that whole thing, and we can kind of talk about it because we're talking about the same thing. When she shows up after Rob and Ruth are discussing battle strategy and what to do with Theon and the Ironborn, um, she kind of just, in a sense, uses herself as a distraction for Rob because literally she shows up when he's trying to make next steps of what happens to Theon.
She's standing outside the door during the battle plans. Now, these battle plans are funny because, Roose Bolton's bastard to get the son of a whore Greyjoys. So, I don't feel like she's spying for Tywin. I feel like Roose wants the North for himself. He's always been a very eager man. And I believe they're setting stuff up. He's sending. I don't know. Give me a second.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
because
just saying in agreement with Johnny. When she walks in the tent, Bruce gets up and leaves. Like that, like I said, I'm 50-50 on this whole argument
yeah,
about her
because
being a spy.
it could be
But
it could be both because the Boltons and the Lannisters worked together to kill Rob and kill Catelyn
Also,
and kill
Tywin talks about
Catelyn
this
and
plan. I'm sorry.
no, we can kind of like go through that because it's kind of like a similar thing. It is Tywin that discusses because in this episode, it's like the next scene after like a Rob and Catelyn scene, right? Anyways, the like their beginnings of the battle strategy, which will be the ultimate end, aka the Red Wedding. Um, yeah, when she shows up in the tent, and because she literally like as soon as he leaves, he shows up, and it's almost that thing of like you were obviously outside, and all of that. And yeah, when she tells that story, almost it's like he like instant like he's been like falling for her because obviously she's an attractive young woman, and he just like is like I have to marry her for the bridge, and then you just like it doesn't matter after like the conversation about her becoming her brother needing CPR. It's just like get
That
away
took
to
him
let
over the edge.
yeah. That took him up. Like I wrote it down. It's like that's like his like what is it special word that he likes to hear. It's like having CPR, like performing CPR. Um, yeah,
Oh yeah, didn't you say that was Charlie Chaplin's
yeah,
great great granddaughter?
yeah. Because the funny thing is, it's Harry Lloyd who played Viserys, and is his famous ancestor, someone else. I can't remember. I saw like a meme for it, and then like she is like his great granddaughter or something. I can't remember on which side, but yeah, there's like I'll look it up while you're saying all your lovely thoughts about Talissa.
Well, you know, Talissa, you know, she plays on a sympathy, and definitely. And I don't know if that's. I mean, it's never stated. It's all for us to speculate on. But whether it's you know, to ensnare Rob, or just, you know, wiles that people use to uh, enthrall people who they want to be with for non-nefarious purposes. And then also, we're not talking about the other part of this. Well, okay, so it goes into that. It goes into you have your gratuitous HBO butt shot, and then but the other aspect of if we're covering this like location by location, what about the way Rob handles Catelyn? Because definitely think that needs a little more discussion.
Oh yeah, that's we can definitely talk about that as well. It's I think he handled it right at the time, but didn't keep following through in a sense. If that makes sense to me, to you, he didn't. He did what he could. It's not like you can behead your mother, even though Karstark wanted to for sure. What she did was just beyond. It was very, very selfish. And by what right is she ever going to believe Jamie's actually going to pull through on his word? And would he have the power to do so anyway? He's freaking Kingsguard. He's not a lord. He's not on the council. So it's. mm, I'm sorry, Kat, you're just not making sense right now. And I think Rob handled it as best he could at the time, especially for his age. Not, but he should have followed through with it more. But I don't know. That's tough. Because I mean, it's your mother, but then your mother does a traitorous thing, and that's like one of the stickiest situations. Sasa, what you think about that crap? Look, Catelyn looks all sad. Don't you wish you would have got a real Lady Stoneheart? Come on, everybody.
Yeah, exactly, right. But no, they wanted the white polar bear instead, you know, right? Like,
Lady Stoneheart would have been smarter and nicer and more gentle and a better mother. And yeah, I would have liked the real Lady Stoneheart. See, a good actual maternal mom for Brandon Rickon, as opposed to
yeah, a zombie
Catelyn.
mom. Zombie mom would be better. Um, yeah, Catelyn in this, she says, I have 5 children, but only one of them is free. Yeah, the one that you care about pretty much the most is free. And she still thinks that the Lannisters have Arya, even though there's no reports of Arya with the Lannisters. And yeah, they're still at this. She's still almost having this mindset that they obviously haven't heard from Daeon yet about Rickon and Bran, but she's ultimately like, they'll do it because like they're honorable. It's like Jamie is like an honorable person to her or whatever, but it's like no, but it's not when she's alive that he kind of keeps this promise. It's after she has been murdered by by technically his father, and um, that he keeps the promise to make the Stark girls like protect them in a sense, um, or at least like give them back to their mother, or in this case, in a sense, help them bring themselves back to family almost. So when
Oh, can I throw this wrench in there? The only thing I would say is More than likely, Jamie might have been killed by Rickard Karstark or someone. I know they're really drunk in the books. Why? Rob wasn't there at the time, correct? Is that when he went to the crag?
Yeah, they're
To the
he's
crag?
at the crag with Talissa. Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, it's a tough situation, but what she did couldn't be excused. But you could argue if she hadn't did it, Sansa would die. So,
Yeah. It's one life or another one. But also in this kind of whole little bit of scene, because it's connected, we see Jamie and Brienne have their start of their adventure together, which is kind of funny. But yeah, Catelyn, and she's now being watched day and night. Thing that he has to do, even though he's a king, he's tried to make things happen. Like he has to do what he has to do. Yeah, they're kind of crazy. What else? Well, like we can
what do
kind of
you
talk
think,
about.
John? Would you have beheaded your own mother? What did you think of
My own mother or Catelyn
Rob?
Tully?
Well, what did you think of Rob's response? I meant, like, as a
I
scenario.
think Rob did the best he could with what he had to work with. Like you said, but also, you know, it's kind of ironic to me that Catelyn's impulsiveness, like you don't see much impulsiveness from Riverlands people. And it kind of shows that like the North rubbed off on her because you see how like dumb and impulsive Karstark is. Not in this episode, but I believe it's in the next episode. Like, but you do see how dumb and impulsive Rob is, and it
That's because Rob's
I
really Brandon's son. You didn't know? He's got that
oh
wolf's
yeah
blood. I
yeah.
was trolling John so bad.
That's only like number 10 on my 10 least favorite tinfoil theories, so it's
Even
not
if
too
it's
bad.
true, it wouldn't matter in the long run. Just like if
But
Tom's a spy, it's just fun to talk about.
what she did was impulsive. I mean, she didn't think it through. But on the same note, like Karstark, I mean, it's almost like a caricature. I
A
and
caricature,
I
maybe?
understand. Yeah, that's what I said. A caricature.
I thought you said
I
character.
you know, I think he's a little more nuanced in the books, but not much more. And it I think it's why I kind of have the view I do of a lot of people from the north is that they like don't think things through before they do them. Like it's a repeating motif with characters from the north. They don't really think shit through before they do it. And I think that's all across the board, all across the families. I mean, I'm not making him out as a good guy, but the one exception might be Roose Bolton. It and just impulsiveness.
Torrin Stark
I
was pretty smart. Or Krigan Stark. Was it Krigan Stark?
yeah, the one who bent the
The
knee.
king who knelt.
Well,
Um,
agreed. I'm not
his
saying they're stupid people. It's just
bastard half brother
impulsive,
Brendan wanted to
impulsive
Torrhen's the one
people.
that bent the knee. Sorry,
Torrin. There we go.
Torin,
it's
okay, you're
mentioned in
right.
season 7.
And Alicia Kingston has a hell of a point here. Rob's to blame too. If he wasn't thinking with his dick, he'd have been where he needed to be to keep the lords in line and his mom in check.
Well, it would have
Yeah,
still been
actually,
at the
that's what
crag,
I
right?
think much better and more succinctly than I could ever say it.
Hmm. So, Trying to, yeah. I don't know. I don't know how long he would have stayed there with or without her. If he stayed there longer, because he could have did the same thing back at camp. They were going there to get supplies and stuff. So, but yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Just throwing out some butter.
Yeah, and Julianne makes a funny comment. She says, "The people in the north are jumpy because they've been waiting for winter and it never comes. Their nerves are shot." LOL.
Yeah, they supposedly remember, but they forget a lot.
But
They're,
Johnny, before we go on, I would really like to hear more of your. You said you had some deep, juicy spy
well, I've had
theory
some if I
stuff.
can find them in my damn notes, but the more I think about it, it doesn't really matter. But I feel like she is. There's too much.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know what a lady is, but to Kenzie's point, she's understanding everything Rob's saying. She actually gives Rob advice and tells him, "Don't you need to do this?" And uh, it's like she even pulls the whole, "Oh, it must be a beautiful bridge" type thing, and she is reeling him in the whole time. It's not even as if nec- she set out the bait and he bit the hook, and now she's reeling him in. And you can see this slowly happening. And she's always writing these letters to home, to a family she ran away from. It just does not make sense. Um, her whole speech about hating slavery is fine, but why did she come to Westeros when there are plenty of free cities where she's from? She could have easily went to Bravo. She could have easily went there are many wars going on. She could have went to freaking, uh, oh my gosh, I can't think of it. Where the dang Dosh Colleen are. Um, Sorry, I'm having brain farts tonight, guys. She could have went to all these other places, but
The disputed lands.
yeah, the disputed lands. She specifically went to this one little battle. Uh, I don't know. Suspicious, and I wish I could read my notes, but I have handwriting as good as John's, so he would understand. It'll hit me. But there's just she slipped up by saying there were coppers, and yeah, I have to give you some more juice in a minute. Kenzie, bring me back online.
Oh, sorry, there's something in the chat. Well, we can talk about Jamie and Brienne and them starting their adventure together, where he's talking about like where she's from and um, like how she looks and all of this stuff. It's like beginning to have that the dynamic in their relationship that's about to develop, because this is one of those like kind of like Sandor and Arya relationship dynamics, but it's like different in the funniest way possible. We can talk about that for a second if you want.
I'd also say if she's not a spy, I feel like Roose was watching with those beady blue eyes of his, all vampire-like. But we'll go to Brienne, and go ahead. Well, whoever wants to go first. If you want it to be me, I can do it.
Well, first thing I want to say is I don't hit Johnny. Johnny hits me. Okay, so don't any of you get it like I'm coming out here. Johnny's the one who hits. He said I'd hit him. But that's not how it works out. Okay, I've fallen down enough steps. I'm just gonna come out about this. Johnny's the one who hits.
I have
But
no clue what you're talking.
you said I was gonna hate you, and I'm just setting it all clear. I'm letting everybody know about our domestic violence problems.
Oh
But
yeah. Keep that on the down low.
well, I just announced it to the world, so I love the dynamic between Jamie and Brienne here. Because he's trying to get under her skin and he does a little bit, but then she like pulls it back in. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, I think the dialogue in this episode is so well done. And you know, the fact, yeah, some of these things are going to get under your skin, and she reacts to it, but then she comes right back and goes back to business. She's like, you know, I really like that. Sorry, that's
Yeah. She kind of
my immediate thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, she kind of just like is kind of sassy with him because he's obviously hasn't had like a person like Bran like take. Obviously, he's been like captured somewhat before, but he hasn't been like probably captured by like Bran or something. And he's like, your sigil is like this and this, this and that, and then your father is Lord something Tarly or something. He's or Tars. So he's trying to like banter with her in like this weird way because this is also where I guess we get the Jamie and Brienne ship to come out slightly. I forget what the ship name is. Bramey?
Jan?
Jan? I don't remember.
It doesn't matter.
I like Bramey. I like Bramey a lot.
Yeah, it's something I don't know. It's something that this is where
And
that
Buck's old Cleo phrase with him, right, John? Old ferret face himself.
yeah. Yeah, we have Bran and Jamie, and their relationship obviously from this point stems what happens throughout the rest of the series, which is cool. The next scene we can kind of talk about is the stuff at Harrenhal, which in Tywin and mostly Kevin discuss the war that is continuing to come and what could happen to Tywin's family if Stannis reaches King's Landing, and what happens with Robb and how Robb he's young, but he's never lost a war, continues to say that, and that he's not afraid of losing, and that Tywin says that they're leaving at nightfall to go get Robb Stark and his men. No, not Robb Stark, to go to King's Landing. But they also talk about Robb Stark again and what the next strategies are for that. And Arya stays behind and asks Gendry and Hot Pie if they've seen Jaqen and how he's on patrol. But this is also the last sort of 2 scenes-ish that we have the Arya and Tywin scenes for the entire series. So it was short-lived, but it was awesome. So we can kind of talk about this whole little bit here.
It was great fun, but it was just one of those things.
Yeah, we have they're pretty much, I guess, between now and next episode is like, well, how long logistically does it take unless you're riding hard? Oh, James, Johnny, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm good. Go ahead. I got it changed now.
Oh, yeah, the yeah, unless they're riding hard, like how long, I guess, does it take to get to Harrenhal from King's Landing to King's Landing? Sorry, a fortnight, like 7 days.
I don't know if it take a fortnight would be 14 days. I don't know if it take that long. It'd probably take 2 or 3 days, I would assume, but I don't know. Showtime is just they said they're gonna ride through the night, get a day on Robb. So yeah, it has to be, I'm thinking about 3 days probably. Harrenhal's semi close to King's Landing.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's hard
it's
to.
a week or less.
Yeah.
I want to say. I'm not positive, but I think it's about a week or less.
Yeah, because that was like the only like real thought that I had, because in the next episode, the end scene, pretty much what I remember is with Tywin breaking through or getting into the throne room with the men, with the Lannister soldiers. So it doesn't take very long to get from Harrenhal to King's Landing. So that was like my like real thought. And then patrol. Now when I like think of the word patrol in Game of Thrones, I always think of Grey Worm when he's like in like season 6, talking about patrol, going on patrol, like when he's talking with Tyrion and Missandei. It's always like that version of the way he says patrol. It's like think of it that way now. Anyways, go ahead, Johnny. You want to say something? And you're muted.
No, in all of this, you can clearly see that Tywin seems to be the only person that understands the threat they're facing. You have Stannis coming up from Dragonstone. You have the wolf, the wolf at my door, as Tywin says, and Kevin's just spouting nonsense like an idiot, and Arya's soaking all this in, and poor girl's about to be left with the mountain. He'll be his cupbearer. He's not good company, but make sure he's not drunk. So get his stuff done. I mean, how long would Arya survive how far did we get to past where she's talking to Hot Pie, right? And we hear this whole time that she's learning how to make Frey pie. If you listen to this episode, she's learning how to make. This is where she learned how to make Frey pie. She must have not. I don't think she listened about the butter, but Arya also pushes the limits of the gods or the god of death in this. I think this shows to me that she's kind of trying to take advantage of Jaqen. I don't know how to use the words, but a man can go kill himself, right? A girl has no honor, and I think this will come back to bite her because one death was owed to the Red God, and she got 2 extra, if I'm not mistaken. In the book, she didn't. In the show, she got 2 extra. So you could say that Jaqen was 1 death. I think me and Kenzie were talking about that. And then who were the other deaths? Who would the other death be? Like, I guess Lady Crane would be the other death you could put in that category. Because she did basically owe 2 lives, because she took 2 extra lives. Now, in the books, she dropped the coin and killed the guardsman on the parapets, stabbed him in the neck, kind of like she does in later seasons. After she poisons everyone. Look, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say I hated to see Weasel Soup get taken out of this, or Weasel Stew. Like that has to be probably one of my favorite things in the whole book, Clash of Kings. Like I love the Weasel Stew. Brilliant, really well done. Um, yeah, Arya owes a death now, and she's gonna have to pay that off. But I I think personally that Jacon, or the artist previously known as Jacon, really respected her for like kind of what she did, because she's like, okay, well, I can name one more name, you.
No, it
And he's
scared
like,
the
take
shit
it
out of
back.
him. 'Cause
I just think he had some respect for her doing that. He's like,
personally,
okay, you're clever enough. Like, I think it was another step on the road to the uh, many face god. Like, okay, you're clever enough to do this. You're not just like this vicious, psychotic child who wants vengeance. Like you're clever enough. You finally figured it out. You wasted your first two deaths. I'm glad you're
No,
not wasting this one.
but if I'm not mistaken, the Faceless Men don't recruit kids ever, for the most part that I know of. Uh, and seems to be one exception of the rule.
Mhm.
And I no, this seemed to scare him more than anything for me. Having your hands in the life of a child that doesn't really know what it means will put the fear of the many-faced God right in you. He was anything. Please, please unname me, please. He was. Uh, that's the only time I've ever seen him show fear. And we must remember there is no Jack and Hagar. If he was dead, then the waif become Jack and Hagar, and then another waif popped out of his ass, according to the show. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. I did kind of I see where you're coming from, but I think it was more of a show thing to show Arya's sassiness because it didn't happen any that way in the books at all, and it was kind of
Speaking of,
a shortcut.
I love when he's like, a girl has no honor, and she's like the shrug, like not a word spoken. Maisie Williams, I mean, it was just beautiful. She's just like, whatever. Yeah, I've been dealing with no honor since I watched my dad's head get cut off, so you can go bugger off.
Yeah. And she even asks him, it's like, how long does it take from basically once a name is spoken to for the deed to be done? And he's like, an hour, like it's like 30 minutes, like 5 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, half a day, 2 days, a week, a month, a year. Like
Oh
he
yeah,
never,
end of season 8, Jackin's gonna come give her a pat on the back and tell her good job. That's exactly what's gonna happen.
yeah, it's like that whole weird thing where because she asks like, go kill Tywin, he just left, go go go, and he's like, no, he's like it's that whole thing where he's like, no, I'm not gonna do that, because like I don't know, we don't know exactly why he never did it, but probably because the fact either he was lazy or just the fact it's like, no, we'll let somebody else take him out. And AK made a good point, and she says that says, I feel like the god of death has Arya's back. I mean, she's literally gonna be dropping bodies in the name in Death's name. And she also says, when it comes to Arya, I've always thought that the Faceless Men were tracking her long before she left the North. Stark blood is a hot commodity. They never wanted no one. They've always wanted Arya Stark.
Well, you could argue that what you can't say for sure they wanted Arya. I could see where you're coming from that. I love the Arya love too, by the way. Okay, with the awesome points. Uh, I I think it was. I think they noticed her more when she started training with Syrio. Uh, I don't. I'm not a. See, it's obscure in the books. He jacks him up. In the books, you don't even know if he's dead. There's this whole thing, and he. We've heard people in the show from Bravos that a faceless man. I probably froze, didn't I?
Yeah,
You did.
Which part?
about Jaqen and the Faceless something, and then the face you ended with the Faceless Men. About the
I don't
blood, I
even.
think.
Hmm. Sirio's the one that's seen all her gifts. He's the one that noticed her. He's the one with the main connection to anything with the faceless man. Unless they were just tiptoeing around, spying through a window, being very weird. They happened to hear about this one girl from the north who was called Arya Underfoot and just gave Fat Tom hell all the time. Uh, Now, could they be going after a warg? I would say yes, and I think Arya possibly fell into their lap. They may have even wanted to recruit Rob Brand, John. John may have been an original recruit. Something didn't work out right. So I kind of
Sansa.
can see where you're coming from, AK, but I don't think it was specifically Arya. I think it was that warg blood because I don't know. a faceless man that is a warg at the same time, like Arya is in the books, not in the show. Extreme badass. Like, you cannot defeat that sneakiness. Maybe like one on one, but that would it's gonna be awesome in the books.
Yeah, like Luke mentioned that, like you were kind of talking about, they may be wanting like warg or green, like the green seer or like the warg blood, and she just happened to be one of the ones. Because like we've talked about in previous episodes and also on your channel, Johnny, Arya is able to warg Nymeria from across the narrow sea. Like, that's pretty strong warging ability. So to have that whole thing and to have someone like her be a potential faceless assassin be kind of cool. Even though she's supposed to become no one, to have that type of blood would be interesting. Maybe not to like them as an organization, but to the many-faced god. Maybe like they're running out of that type of blood, like a donation, or is it like what is it, like the blood donor clinics or whatever? It's like they're like have one bag left of yeah, O negative, but they have one bag left of green seer blood / warg blood. Need more. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going on the weird thoughts here.
Alicia asks, why would Ned get someone all the way from Bravos? Who even told him about that? My one thought on that has always been that his fighting style, like a Bravosi fighting style. I wouldn't have Barristan Selmy teach my 11-year-old kid, boy or girl, how to fight, because he uses a longsword, he uses a shield, it's heavy armament, whereas the Bravosi water dancers, like, that's more something that a small person with a small blade could use. But I do see your point, absolutely.
Well, also she wanted to use needle, and in order to use needle, you're not gonna be able to use the hack and slash of the night, as Serial Pharrell would say. This is a dance, and John knows. I mean, Ned knows. Ned's been around the block. He knows about Bravos. I'm sure everybody knows a little bit about Bravos. In King's Landing, you have many people from many different areas across the world just gallivanting about, so to speak. So it wouldn't be a long shot for Ned to have sent someone to find him. I don't think he went and literally personally found him. I think he asked someone and they found him. But it's a very good point, and I'm probably wrong anyways. But go ahead.
Yeah, like the hack and slash. Yeah, because after this we see Arya and her crew, consisting of Gendry and Hot Pie, that gets in like a similar thing, going to escape Harrenhal.
You skip the ear pulling
With a ear pulling.
with Hot Pie. When Hot Pie is trying to be a cheeky little bugger, and Ari just grabs him by the ears. She's like, "Tell me now."
Oh, she didn't skip it. You skipped it when we talked about that scene. Ha ha ha.
Sorry.
Yeah.
She's the hostess. I'm just this guy.
Oh,
but the scene, yeah. So Arya says that like if he helps her, then he'll be unnamed. Jeez. And obviously we see that the walk through the exit of Harrenhal, they're kind of like confused / scared because there's guards like at attention, so to speak, but they're dead. So that's what makes them go like, haha, we've kind of snuck out. So they've snuck out of Harrenhal undetected because no guards. So it's like that first little bit of sneakiness that they're gonna go through, which is kind of funny. That's like the last bit of the Arya stuff. Yeah, so the crew is now back on tour.
That's why she didn't learn to brown the butter before she made the fray pie.
Yeah. So my last note on this is the crew is now back on tour. Hot Pie and Gendry, they're back on tour with Arya.
Well, I think Arya's time, and this has spent a lot more in the books. As Weasel taught her that sometimes you just need to be quiet and sneaky. You can't just, it was something Syrio was trying to teach her from the beginning. Like, you're not a large person, so that style of fighting, that Westerosi style of swinging a longsword and hacking and slashing and so forth, is not going to work for you. Like, you need to learn how to be sneaky, and she does the sneaky thing with Jokon Hagar, and she does the the sneaking out and so forth. I think it's a big character development episode for her. That's kind of my thought. And yeah, they got the band back together. And Hot Pie is still being a little twat, but he's he's finally gonna realize like Arya's trying to save his little fat ass, like, and be a little more decent. I'm sorry, Kenzie, you're muted.
No, I just was going Ari because they always call her Ari.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next scene is Bronn and Tyrion discuss cleaning hands, gold cloaks, and the defense for King's Landing for the next episode. And how this was another scene that was kind of like a big thing for Johnny and myself in terms of the dialogue for this. And also Varys comes in and they talk about like what a city is like during a siege. And Bronn has definitely seen a siege, but which one is it? And that was like the big thing because he knows a lot about sieges compared to Varys and Tyrion.
Oh, by the way, Lamy is a main character in the novella Night Flyers. Actually, one of Germ's favorite characters he's ever written. So check it out. That's what the fuck a Lamy is. I had to let everybody know. Go ahead, John. Let's you start this one off.
Once again, this goes back to what I love so much about this episode. Is the dialogue. The way this whole scene's done is really good because, like, Tyrion, we know he's smart. We know he's relatively wise, but Bronn points out to him, he's like, "You've never dealt with this before, and I have." Like, just the way this whole scene's done, I really, really like. I mean, yeah, you get the whole cheekiness from his name escapes me now. The actor who plays Bronn.
Doesn't matter what my name is. I'm just a badass.
Jerome Flynn.
Jerome Flynn. I mean, you get his cheekiness and everything, which it's so spot on and well done. But also, he points something out to Tyrion. He's like, you're making plans based on books, and yeah, like that can give you knowledge, but you've never been through this before. I have. And it, I really like that. And then the spider creeps into the room.
Well, right. You can see, I love the nuance of the scene. You can see how tense Tyrion is by everything that Bronn's doing is annoying the shit out of him, and Bronn's just sitting there. And Bronn can see it as well. And it begs the question, what sieges has Bronn seen? I know there's theories that he's a Rain and whatnot. Whether he's being kept around just for fan service and this jump sell sword, I don't know. More than likely, that's all he is. But he has, he handled thievery, right? He makes a great point about the gold cloaks. Catches the light, slows you down in a fight. Not wearing the damn thing he's so street smart, and him and Tyrion make the perfect combo. You got the books and the street smart, and Tyrion, I would argue, learned so much from Bronn, especially in the show, even in the books. Uh, Bronn encourages Tyrion to actually fight. First thing he says, I think, when he finds Tyrion after he stabbed the horse with the spike on his helm in the books, is like, "Where'd your spike go?" or something like that. And Tyrion's like, "Where were you?" It's like, "Seems like you did all right to me." And it was, it's just like Bronn's the first person besides Jaime to treat him like a real person and not an imp. I think that's a big key to this. And we find out about the Mudgate, of course. And you know, I got something written down. Tyrion was irritated as pig shit, which I think's funny because we'll find out them dealing in pig shit. Got some, you know, I wish they would have found a chain. I don't know how hard that would have been for them to find a chain, but hey, it's kind of my little gripe. Go ahead, Sasa, and then I'll ramble on some more in a second.
No, I just like AK's comment as she says, cloaks are just Westerosi capes. And hey, Ben, because Ben's now in the chat. So now this may confuse some people because Drinks and Nose and Ben are in the chat. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, there's just the whole thing with the books versus men thing, like you discussed, Johnny. It's almost brains versus brawn. Ha ha, ha ha. Like brawn isn't like strength, but also brawn, like, and the brains being like Tyrion versus brawn. It's kind of funny, and yeah, and how like also because they also mentioned that the swap the books for the archers, that was the thing that they obviously bring up next episode is the archers and how important the archers are in the next episode. And they also
Varys does not disagree with Bronn at all. I'd just like to throw that up. Like, he's like, yeah, makes great points the whole time. Varys like,
yeah, and yeah, they got that whole thing going on. And yeah, that's just the mark drop in thievery. How did you acquire all of this? Just round up all the known thieves. That's all you got to do. It's just, and then that stops you right away. So, go ahead, Johnny.
Well, I think Tyrion. I mean, this is his education, not just in warfare, but in ways to do things. I think this is his education in what is brought up later in his conversation with him and Varys about how to play the game. Because Tyrion wants to think like Bronn, but has been grown to think like a noble person. And Bronn's just practical. I mean, more than anything, Bronn's practical. He's pragmatic. I think more than his little one-liners and things like that. I think that, at least for me, is what makes him a likable and accessible character. Is that he's just pragmatic and he's practical. It's like, how'd you get rid of these thieves? Well, we rounded up all the thieves.
round up all the known thieves. It's just the unknown ones we have to worry about.
What'd you do with them? Well, they won't be a problem anymore. And I really like Bronn's monologue that he goes into about what it's like to be in a city under siege. I think it really drives home for Tyrion, like, hey, you little pampered brat. Which Tyrion's a smart pampered brat, but he's a pampered brat. And it really, drives home for him just exactly what he might be dealing with. I like that about this. Just the whole the dialogue in this scene. I mean, Peter Dinklage is just such an amazing actor. The dialogue in this scene, and one that we'll be going to here in just a wee bit, is just absolutely brilliant. But yeah, I think this might be my favorite scene from the whole episode. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is. I like that this is a soft episode. There's no big bang flash, CGI, anything. I like that it's a very quiet episode that says a lot of things.
Oh,
if that makes sense.
yeah, because it's coming next episode.
Don't forget about Archmaester
Yeah.
Sheviathan.
Archmaester Shevalatish. Sheviathan. It's like us with the fire and blood's Archmaester, like Gliadin, like Jordan pronounces it Gliadin, but probably someone else pronounces it a different way. Or the Maesters who write World of Ice and Fire. It's like them trying to figure out how to pronounce certain names. It's kind of funny. It's a comedic moment. But
Do you think there's something to the fact that Bronn and Varys know how to pronounce the name correctly, but Tyrion does not?
Bronn mispronounced it,
Bronn
just in a different way.
Yeah, it said it with a different I think it was like enunciation.
And then when Varys said it, they were like, "Oh, that's the right way."
Even though Varys is not, yeah.
No, but I'm saying it was closer. It was far more close.
Yeah.
For one thing, I think this is the first time we learned that Bronn can read.
Yeah, I think so. You have to take that into account. He also talks about the siege. I think he's from a more major
Tinfoil.
house. Well, I mean, there's no point in him being able to know how to read. Many lords don't even know how to read. They have maesters read for them. So, yeah, there's something there. And especially him knowing being through a siege before, that's not a small thing and something that happens all the damn time. So, see
What
if
if
we can
he's a
try to
Rain
narrow that down.
Castamere, though?
I mean, see, if he's a Rain, then I don't know. What's he going to do? Kill Tyrion at the end? Or kill Cersei? Would he be the one to kill Cersei then?
They can't
I
be in
would
a
love
scene.
to see that, especially given the actors.
It's not
I
happening
would
on
really
screen.
love to see that scene.
Yeah, it's like we know that Cersei's in a room, and then Bronn just like storms in the room, slams the door, and all you hear is like a scream or something, or like stab thing. It would be funny. Anyway, the next scene, talking about the other half of that relationship, Cersei and Tyrion discuss Joffrey, while also this is Pod's second appearance on the show. Pouring more wine, as always. They also discuss Jaime and how Jaime is not like or like how Joffrey is when he was that age. And Tyrion also says that Cersei is above average intelligence. And they also talk about men and how men think. And we also see that Cersei thinks she's found what we believe or come to believe is Shay, but it's actually Ross in this. And yeah, we can talk about that for a minute.
Well, first off, Tyrion's not trying to put Joffrey in the vanguard or anything. He wants Joffrey to be seen like a king should be seen. I was saying earlier that Joffrey's like a Maegor and Aenys had a baby. He's doesn't want anything to do with fighting. He's violent like Maegor and cruel, but he's just a real, for lack of a better term, sissy. And we see how much Cersei has coddled him in this very scene right here, and not even letting him be king. At this point, he's a year younger than Robb, and Robb's leading a host to war, and he's sitting on the throne screaming, "I am the king." And I think it's very telling to Joffrey's upbringing and how much she treated Joffrey different than her other children as well. That first child can definitely make you do that. A lot of people spoil their first child, and I think Cersei went overboard. Now to the point of where, I mean, I thought it was really hilarious how Tyrion said you're what did he say? Slightly above average intelligence, right?
Above average intelligence.
In the books, I would argue that she may be average intelligence. She's just insane. But in the show, I really love the arc they did with her and how cunning and brutal she is. She definitely has her flaws, but just like you said, she was happy. She thought she had Tyrion. She thought she had him by the gonads. she brings in, and Tyrion thought so too. Go ahead, John. I'll let you speak for a bit. I feel like I've been speaking for too long. Ha!
No, not at all. I always love to hear you speak. You have some amazing insights. Um, I, yeah, I actually think personally that this is when Tyrion, really plays his hand close to his chest. Because he doesn't give anything away, and in the end, it's not Shay. You know. Now, on the other hand, in the next scene, Tyrion just makes a total ass of himself.
Oh my
But
god.
like, was that oh my god because of Tyrion or oh my
Oh
god
my
because
god,
of
because of Tyrion, because he literally
Okay.
tells Cersei what a whore is, and you just rent them, and how awesome is Ross too, by the way.
Yeah.
Really, she's ride or die, man. She's smart. She knows that's the only way she's getting the hell out of there is by acting
All
that way.
all I can say is stick a pin in that,
Yeah.
or maybe a crossbow bolt.
Yeah, as maybe
But
Go ahead.
I just but the way that Peter Dinklage and oh my god, I can't remember anybody's freaking name tonight.
Lena Headey.
Yeah,
Lena Headey.
Headey, and then Project is Daniel Portman.
Okay, the dialogue and everything. Yeah, this is another really spot on scene. It's like I had said earlier that it's a soft episode in that there's not a whole bunch of like big explosions or anything like that, but it really does so much character development, and I think you really feel satisfied at the end, even though you don't see any big outside of a couple of Lannister red shirts hanging up on pikes. Like you don't really see any big
Yeah.
bang stuff, and but I think this really shows that Tyrion, yeah, he wants to say this and he wants to think and he knows this about Shay. He knows this, but he can't resign himself to it. Like if he were really thought the way that he wants everyone to think he thinks, Shay could have been paraded out there and he wouldn't have been like, I will make sure, this is taken care of. He would have been like, okay, whatever. That's the way he likes to think of himself as. That's the way he likes to try and project himself. But, you know, but on the other hand, you have to think like acting so sentimental towards Roz might have been exactly what he was doing to try and throw Cersei off the path.
Ross severs Tim well in the first episode. I think he was repaying her for that. No, honestly, he did have to play it to his chest. To your point, John. And well, I want you to say it, Sasa. What does the joy do?
What?
What does the joy do for Cersei?
Pulls up. What? Oh, the one day you'll feel like you're safe and happy, and then and then then the joy will turn to ashes in your mouth. Yeah, one day you'll feel like you're safe and happy, and then one day.
Favorite quote in the episode.
Because he looks at her like there's a thing where he's just like when he looks at her and has this scene, because we don't know if it's been paid out yet, whether it's the scene with Marcella or if it's to come in season 8. Who knows? But I feel like it could be Marcella, like the whole thing with Marcella and Marcella's death. But I feel like it also could be something completely different. And yeah, poor Bronze in this scene. Like has to beat the other girl with Joffrey, and then she gets beaten by Lannister soldiers.
She
And
should
then,
stay in the north.
even though she would have been treated well in the north. And to transition to the god awful scene that we all hate, and which happens to be Shay and Tyrion, and they do the "I am yours" and "You are mine" stuff, and I was like, "My little lion" and stuff. It's just
Literally got gag written in all capitals.
like stop, please, because we know what comes obviously in season 4 with that, but it's just like ugh, so gross. And man,
Tell me. John, I know this killed you just like you said. It literally killed me because Tyrion's just lying to himself for the sake of any type of love. You know, he's getting some from Bronn, but not what he needs. So the next best thing is Shay. And it's like he's forgotten he bought her that first night, right, John? He bought her. You will be
Yeah,
with me until I die, or whatever, and you will be with no one else until he bought her faithfulness. It fucking blows my mind.
well, for any D&D nerds out there in the chat, okay, Tyrion rode like an 18 intelligence and like maybe a 10 wisdom. Like he just doesn't get it, and he even knows these things, and he, um, you know, yeah, it's kind of like the best way I can describe it is that moment when you're a kid and you realize your parents are fallible. Like watching that scene or and reading it in the book, it was kind of like that. Like when you're a kid, you think your parents are like, uh, just amazing. As long as you have decent parents, you know. I can't speak for people who didn't have decent parents, and I'm not trying to.
Either way, there's still a type of pedestal there
Right,
that was there
and
to a
it's
certain point that fell. Yeah.
right, and it's like it's like watching Tyrion act like this with right after what he said. It 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 makes me think of that moment, like when you see your mom or dad fail at something, and you're like, oh, okay, well, this just I kind of had that same feeling when I saw Tyrion, sitting here. Oh, I love you, blah blah blah. Like,
Oh, she'll cut their faces off. Is Shay a faceless man? Or no,
oh,
I was honestly gonna throw this out here. Okay, is this foreshadowing for possibly Tyrion's face being used in the future?
AK put it best actually. Alicia Kingston, thank you. Tyrion got cut up in the game. These hosts ain't loyal, bro. Yeah,
That answers
exactly.
my question perfectly.
What one of the greatest philosophers of our time, Snoop Dogg, said, "Don't love them bitches, no." You know, agreed. Absolutely agreed.
yeah, sorry.
It's all right. Yeah, go ahead. You want me to fill up some time here?
Yeah, because the next kind of King's Landing scene is Joffrey, Varys, and Tyrion on the battlements discussing the siege. We can
Yeah,
talk about
take the red smile first, I guess. I mean, he's just a petulant child. I mean, that's it. A petulant child with some like fucked up DNA, man. There's like some strands of DNA that aren't connected. There's some that are a different letter unknown to mankind. This kid is the epitome of why brothers and sisters should not have sex. Ever. Ever. You know, the only red smile he'll ever give anyone is someone he pays and then has, to give a red smile to, which he still doesn't do. Uh, he Like, doesn't he kill cats in the books?
Yeah, he does.
He's a little serial killer, but he's a wimpy serial killer. I don't respect him. If he was like Magor, I would love to hate him, right? But like, I'm sorry, Jack Gleason is awesome, and this role killed him. But he played this role so well
Oh,
that
absolutely.
and the, I don't know. He talks about being a king, but he doesn't understand anything about being a king. You think he would have learned a little something, but like I said, we saw earlier how coddled he is, and how he's told he's great at everything, um, and mommy knows best. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I'll throw some more digs in there, but
Speaking of mommy, mommy even said to Tyrion, she's like, Joffrey's not Jamie. You know, she's even
yeah,
admitting that he's a little twat.
yeah. Well, she coddled him. In the book, she's a little more crazy too. So she probably passed off some of that craziness because in the book, I mean, for someone to watch the entire Tower of the Hand burn down by wildfire for like 12 hours and stand there and not freaking move, you're insane. I'm sorry. You're done for. She's been having people searching through the wall. Anyways, I'm going off topic here,
Oh
but
no, I'm just saying, like, even Cersei was like,
yeah.
yeah, Joffrey is not Jamie. So
Yeah, I know. I was feeding off of that and
he's
rambling.
like just a little like even Cersei knows, and I don't know if it comes up in the show. There's a scene in the books when she's like, "Yeah, it honestly, he would have made a horrible king. He was a horrible person, but he was still my son." Uh, I know that's in the books. Is that in the show? Kenzie, you've probably watched the show more often than I have.
Which part? Sorry. The
Where Cersei's like, Joffrey was a horrible person and he would have made a horrible king, but he was still my son.
yeah. It's
Is that in the
after.
show too?
Yes, because
Okay.
it's after Joffrey has died and Marjorie is trying to make a strategic move with Tommen, and she goes like, he would have been he would have been my husband, he would have been my king, kind of sort of thing. And she's like, so it's like, he would have been your nightmare, like you would have been like that whole sort of thing. Like, yes, he would have been your king, and yes, he would have been your husband. But he would have been like a complete nightmare. So like, she even recognizes that he is cuckoo, but she still loves him anyway. And this too is when um, she also, like, throughout this part into, she also says, I think it was in the last couple episodes, or it's in the near future, that without her children, she would have flung herself from the highest window in the Red Keep. So she hasn't done that yet, probably, but when she maybe miscarries this
No, but
baby,
Tommen did.
yeah, but maybe when she miscarries this baby, she might do it before she sets King's Landing on fire. But yeah, we have that, and then after this, we have 2 scenes left. Um, but go ahead. My only like real thought on this episode is just because after this, it's um, them discussing like burning, and then the god of tits and wine is talked about as like the fertility goddess, and Tyrion wants to go visit and be I guess, a subject of, or a follower of that religion, which is kind of funny. Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Varys kind of sees more in Tyrion than Tyrion sees in himself, and we see that a little more exacerbated later. Uh, he, he, Varys admires Tyrion, and you can tell, and he's talking with Tyrion about, let me see, all these religions, and talking about Dany having dragons, and not getting any whispers from. Wait, Yeah, that point where he's not getting any whispers from the north. That's because Theon killed all the damn ravens. But Stannis is coming, and I think it's really prevalent that with the scene with Varys and Tyrion that all of these religions are mentioned, and that also Tyrion is when Varys informs him of Dany, Tyrion says this famous line, "I love one game at a time," and I know I'm almost positive Tyrion is going to betray Dany, if not for Jon, for Cersei's possible baby, and I say that with air quotations, but seems to be a little bit of foreshadowing there, and how much of the game is Tyrion playing. I know he's got a crush on Dany, but you can't say that Tyrion's in love with Dany. How could you be? He can be in love with the idea of her, but I don't know. They've had like 2 conversations, but he loves Shay, so what the hell? Hey, Miss Cronall,
Yeah, Miss
and
Chrono here in the chat with us.
Bobby's here too. Oh,
We had
sorry. Go ahead.
a whole bunch of people. Yeah, and also Varys did say that she has dragons, and that in the years they'll become like weapons. So even Varys is worried about Dany and her dragons, even though they've kind of like put that to the side for a little bit. There is credence to this, and me and John will probably do even a stream about this whole thing about like Dany and the Tyrion and Varys and all that thing eventually, because it's important to talk about because there's so many different endings and theories of this. Yeah. John, what do you think about the god of tits and wine, and then discussing about the dragons and Dany?
I I I keep going into this. The dialogue in this episode is amazing. I love the discussion between Varys and Tyrion. I love the whole almost Cold War spy conversation they have. Uh, if you don't get into like Cold War era films, that might not be quite as prevalent and obvious, but um, you know, Tyrion really respects Varys, and Varys really respects Tyrion, and goes into something that happens in the next. I think it's the next season. Like Varys knew exactly what was going to happen when he said, "Oh well, up that stairwell goes there, but please don't go there." We'll get to that at another time. But the conversation here, I really enjoyed, and I do love that Tyrion's like driven home this thing with everybody the entire episode. Like we need to handle the vulgars that are at our gates, not necessarily. We need to worry about the other ones, but we need to right now. We need to handle this problem. I can't worry about a teenage girl with 3 baby dragons half the world away. I need to worry about a very bitter man who actually, in the real world, has the claim to the throne, is coming up with a ton of ships and going to try and take the city. Like, that's what I need to worry about. So I need to take these problems one thing at a time.
I could argue that Varys was testing him at this point, because he already knows the answers to these questions or what the answers should be. He's always testing people. So it's a good point, John. Kenji?
Yeah, so the next scene in this is that we have left to cover. It was before this, technically. And it's Davos, or as I wrote, Dadvos, and Stannis discuss things from their side of the battle. How Davos is known as the Onion Knight, and we get the backstory about why he's the Onion Knight, and how the Siege of Storm's End and Stannis has his middle child syndrome come out, and he gives Davos the thing of, if I win the Iron Throne, you'll be my hand. For me, it hasn't been obviously blatantly spelled out or discussed, but if Jon has to sit the throne, I don't think it would be Sam that's his hand. It would be Davos that would probably be his hand, and I feel like there's that whole thing that we come into later in this series of Jon being the king that no one suspected coming out of nowhere. Davos goes with Jon to Dragonstone to treat with Daenerys. Like, he will probably be named Hand of the King, especially after it's been because we're not sure if the younger characters really know a lot about the Siege of Storm's End, but I feel like that whole story comes out and everything, I feel like he may get his handship if Jon is king. So, anyways, that's my one thought for the scene. Besides, middle child syndrome with Stannis, most definitely still there.
Oh yeah, it's kind of a revert Oris Baratheon, right? He comes from nothing, loses his fingers, or you can argue a hand, and rises to be hand. Whereas Oris Baratheon became hand, lost his hand, and stepped down from being hand. But that's the real general comparison. I'll get into that when we get more into Fire and Blood. I think Lauren was talking about something along those lines as well. We see how jealous Stannis is, but I would argue that the heir always, from tradition, since the beginning of kingship, which is, it's always been Targaryens, but the tradition is the heir to the throne is Prince of Dragonstone, correct, John? And that's why Stannis doesn't get Storm's End,
Yes, sir.
if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
that's correct.
And I don't think he gets that for some reason. I guess he doesn't. It confuses me. I guess maybe the way they do it in the show, because it's an honor to be at Dragonstone, even though I'm sure he wanted Storm's End, but he can't get over why Storm's End was given to Renly. But that's because he's the next in line, man. It's like I don't. Sometimes I wonder how smart Stannis really is, at least in the show. He's good at words. He has the best words, but he seems to he overlooks a lot of things. He gets mad about a lot of things. He sees almost everything as a slight. And I got it right here, Stannis, the law and order candidate. But yeah, go ahead and throw some stuff out there, John.
Well,
He
first,
just kills
I
me.
have to say, Bobby B didn't think anything out at all.
No.
I mean, Bobby B makes Ned Stark look like Einstein. I mean, he really does. He's supposed to, I guess. That's part of his whole character. Kenzie, do you mind? My thoughts about the scene. Do you mind if I take up a few minutes with an anecdote about why this scene meant so much to me and why I liked it so well?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, because we
thank
only
you.
have one more scene, and it's just the Danny scene, and then that's it.
So, I went to school in a very well-off community with very well-off people, and all of them went off to college right away. I had to pay my way through school. I had to do all of this. And, I'm a bartender by trade because it pays a lot more than being a professor. Um, and I was working one day and something got spilled on my shirt. Red wine got spilled on my white shirt, and I had to go buy another shirt. And so I walked across the street to Macy's to buy a shirt. And one of the most condescending people who I had ever met was sitting at Macy's, and she's like, "I'm a floor manager here," and I didn't get nasty or rude or anything, but in the back of my head, I'm like, I make twice what you do. I put up with half the bullshit. And yeah, you go ahead and go about that. And you go ahead and enjoy your mommy and daddy paid degree. And oh, by the way, you're living with them again? Oh, that's, yeah, a lot of people have to do that nowadays. But I'm a person standing on my own, making twice as much as you, and I win.
Well, I'm the mother of dragons. Fuck you.
So you can talk about all my fracking onions, but I won. So I loved this scene. There's a certain part of me that really enjoyed it.
What's the salted beef too? Old leathery
I do like
Davos.
salted beef.
Think Davos's nubs taste good? He's gonna be using them as pacifiers for the babies. So
Or, but yeah, hopefully they don't have to eat. Was it horses, then the cats, then the dogs? No, and then the rats. Or was it
by the
horses,
end,
rats, cats, dogs?
Dogs, I like dogs.
Yeah,
They're
something like that.
loyal.
Yeah, something like that. And then you came
yeah,
with
like is a relative term with Stannis.
and we've come to the final scene of this episode, which is Dany, and she discusses with Jorah about the dragons, but Jorah drops some truth bombs about her and her supposed new title that she's gained in the last, you can say, 9 episodes, technically, with being the mother of dragons and with the fact about the dragons and their value and how pretty much he'll remember her walking through the flames until the day he dies. So, what do we think about Dany and her entitlement and Jorah being like, slow your roll for 5 more minutes?
Well, first off, Jorah found a ship, so he wanted some hashtag boat sex, but he got shot down. It. He really tells her, they did not suckle at your breast. They are dragons, Khaleesi. You are not their biological mother. And this is true. If Dany dies, the dragons don't die. She didn't literally birth them. She did the process to birth them. She did the blood magic to birth them. But uh, she takes it to another level, which is empowering and I like. And then, but I can see where it's gonna be the downfall of her, uh, 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 like a hero's hubris, their classic journey. She's gonna have to reckon for burning some dick on, you know. And right here, we just we just see she's very entitled, even in a desperate moment, but also resiliency, which I admire. But Jorah is trying to tell the truth, and she's having none of it. Although, if she would have listened to him, she would have no dragons. So, I'm 50-50 on the scene the way I want to feel about Dany. I gotta respect her for doing what she's got to do to get back the only thing she was ever capable of giving birth to. And that's something else we can talk about in the future on this whole pregnancy deal, magic baby. But uh, yeah, this is her she's too attached to the dragons, and you can see it already because that's the only thing she's got. I can't blame her. And I know I'm rambling now. And John, come on, help me out here.
This is the one scene in the entire season that I don't really dislike Danny. I mean, she starts off with the petulant, spoiled brat, temper tantrum throwing child thing, but then she reins it in, and she I think really shows that there's actually like No, if I don't do this, then I have nothing. And do you have my back or do you not? And Jorah is being the voice of reason. He's like, for lack of a better term, you're crazy, bitch. Like, but he supports her when it's time to support her, and she drops the whole petulant child. I am, shield of the realm, blah 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 blah. Like she drops all that, and she's actually like kind of human. She's not acting like she's entitled to this. She's like, hey, these are my kids. They're the closest thing I'm ever gonna have to them. So this is the one scene in the season that this is the one Danny scene in the season that did not bore me. And yeah, Jorah's still a creeper.
Yeah, it's like the thought on this is watch and see. Like said this to Johnny. I was like, watch Jorah die. Like there's like the montage once if Jorah dies in season 8, it's like he dies, and then it's like the flashes of like either HBO wouldn't do this, but a fan edit would most definitely do this. It's like him seeing her in 110 with the baby dragons, and then her in 604 when she burns all the calls, and then it's like another time if she has to become nude all of a sudden, like with fire, and then her like in the Nightlands, like he doesn't even get to be with her in the Nightlands. Like that would be like the thing, but that would just be perpetuated forever. But yeah, Jorah says he can't remember his mother's face, but he'll remember Danny walking through the fire. That's a little creepy. Not a little creepy, that's a lot creepy. And especially because she's probably, what, 17, 16 at this point? So it's like, it's still creepy. And yeah. But she kind of gets like told that it's like they're not your babies, but like both said. And she kind of like accepts that, but she's still on the mission for them, and she still wants to protect them and love them like they are her children. And but she still has her favorite, like a couple mothers in this show. They have their favorite child.
And you have to take into consideration that her dragons are her dignity. Like that's the only shredded dignity that she has left.
Yeah, and then they're her only connection left to a family that she pretty much, the last person she's ever known was Viserys.
I will remember your bosoms forever.
Khaleesi. Yeah, they're kind of her last shred of what was her family, because she believes she is the last of her family at this point until Jon revealed, even though they kind of never like put the two and two together from her perspective, obviously about Maester Aemon, but that is fine. But yeah, we haven't seen Maester Aemon in a long time, so this is like kind of funny. Anyways, yeah.
Isn't he still in a black cell, or did he
Maester Aemon?
he get out?
Maester Aemon? Don't know. I think he's still at Castle Black.
Oh no, not Maester Aemon. I'm thinking of Maester Pycelle.
Yeah, no. Maester
Grey Rat.
Maester
Use the
Aemon's
proper term.
in Castle Black. I don't think we see him at all in season 2. Maybe it's 10, but I can't remember because, anyways, final thoughts for this. Then we have our rating, or we can give rating and final thoughts at the same time. Whoever wants to go first.
Final thoughts. I think this is the dialogue-wise, and I've driven this home all night tonight. Dialogue-wise, I think this is the best episode of the season. Not the best episode of the season, but dialogue-wise, absolutely. I think there's a whole lot of character development just by dialogue without seeing people do things. Jaime and Brienne, Tyrion and Bronn, Tyrion and Cersei, Joffrey just being a twat. Catelyn and Robb, I think that scene was done so well. Don't get me wrong, the actress who plays Catelyn Stark, all the actors escape my mind tonight. Sorry.
Michelle Fairley.
Thank you, Michelle Fairley. She's brilliant. I don't care for her character. But I think that whole scene was just brilliantly done. And Arya, oh my gosh, I mean, yeah, it kind of broke my heart that like when I first watched it, being a book reader first, I was like, oh my gosh, this is supposed to be Roose Bolton, not Tywin Lannister. But seeing them separated as an acting duo, like it hit me in the feels a little bit, just because that wasn't going to happen again. So yeah, the dialogue in this is brilliant, and of course, all the Varys and Tyrion scene is so well done. Thought it was great. I'm going to go ahead and give this 9 HBO butt shots out of 10.
Johnny, what?
Well, I really like this episode, and if you actually think about it, it's probably one of the best filler episodes ever because it really is a filler episode and sets up so many different things from Robin. What happened? Between Rob, the betrayal from Roose, you can see it in those beady eyes from like Tyrion and Varys, from all the way to Rorig and Biter. Rorig really likes his sticks. He's gonna get Arya. Yeah, yeah. See, uh, and hot pie. If you just listen, you'll know how to make a nice loaf of bread or a pie, if I'm not mistaken. If you listen really good. It goes through every single damn step. The symbolism, finding the dragon glass, from the faceless man to Jaqen Hagar. You can't ask for much more in this episode. We didn't get any real deaths and lots of setup, but it was a great episode. And then it's heartbreaking just to watch Tyrion do this to himself. But yeah, I'll give this one an 8.5 roses. Muted.
No, I was about to say slaps to Roz or 8.5 bruised Roz faces.
Just roses. I'm not gonna go crazy tonight.
Yeah, my kind of final thought on this episode is, like we both said, it's a great episode. Even though it's a filler episode, we have knowing and the confirmation that Bran and Rickon aren't actually dead, that it was Farmer's Boys. We have more Jon and Ygritte, which is kind of funny, in their relationship developing. And the funny thing is, her holding Longclaw is like him, like, and always her idolized threat of, if you betray me, I'm like, you know what you would do. So like that whole thing was just kind of funny. And Sam and gotta give it up for Sam and Ed and Gren and all of that whole thing. And yeah, R.I.P. to the Tywin and Arya scenes. Like, those are really awesome. And yeah, I'd give this episode, same as Johnny, as an 8.5, but I'd give it an 8.5 pieces of dragon glass. And with that, I guess we'll give our shout outs and like our spiels, I guess. So I could go. Oh, Tilla says that she gives this episode a 9.2 on the Rickon scale. And anyone in the chat can give what they would give this episode, but whoever wants to say their spiel first.
Drinks Nose gives 9.5 gods of tits and wine. And, well, am I? Okay, so it's Kinsey this reason, not me. Okay. So tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, Fire and Blood, chapters 4 and 5. Uh, believe Mega or Annie's, the birth of Jaehaerys and all that jazz. Uh, lots of juicy details in that. Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern with Fura Hexa as a special guest. We'll be doing the Vikings recap of episode 16, season 5, The Buddha. Cylon Johns at 9 p.m. Eastern Friday. We'll be covering Cobal's Last Gleaming Part 2, and it's a shocker. And all of the Cylon Jills are pretty pissed off at us. So, what else do we have?
I said,
Oh, go ahead.
I said, I'll cut you off for 2 seconds. Says, I can confess, and I haven't completed my homework assignment for this week, John. So, dun 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 dun. But go ahead, Johnny.
Oh, that was about it. Just want to give a shout out and thank everyone for coming to chat. Alicia Kingston, Sly the Tank Benjamin, Drinks and Those Things, Almighty Coon, Bobby Catalano, Living My Rhapsody, Attila Angel, Miss Cronall, Chrissy of Old Stones, John St. Baptiste, Septuagint Secrets. Who else do we have? Am I missing anyone?
I'm trying to remember. Almighty Coon, if you.
I think I said, but Almighty Coon, thank you for showing up. Julianne89 was here. Thank you, my friend.
Nancy T was here as well. We had a whole slew of lovely people show up.
Bobby gives a sad face, says, "Be prepared, Mackenzie."
All right, Bobby. Did John, do you do your spiel? Because I dropped. I know that. So I didn't hear it.
John St. Baptiste, music makes people come together. My channel's all about music, but I end up with these wonderful and fun people all the time. Actually, tonight, literally right after this episode, this week's piece of midweek music ear candy, which is subscriber based, is going to drop. And it was sent to me by one of our members of our community, which would be Sasuke. And I hope you all check that out because it's an awesome track, and you can come check out my curation on it. Yeah, I talk about music, talk about Game of Thrones, I talk about Cylons.
Johnny?
Because in the end, so say we all.
So say we all. And I just want to give a special shout out to the people I forgot, Chrissy of Old Stones and Nancy T. I'm so sorry, Nancy T. Please don't take the blanket back. That's all I ask. We love you all. Go ahead, Kenzie.
Yeah, you can. No, I don't think she'll ask for that back. I don't think she's that much of a punisher. But you can find me, as Johnny basically said. I can follow him, and he follows me everywhere on YouTube, it seems, nowadays. Find me here. You can find me on Johnny's channel. You can find me as a Silent Jill on the Silent John's channel.
Gonna have to change the channel name to Silent John and Jill's.
Yeah, I'll have to do a whole bunch of that. Next week, we will be doing season 2, episode 9, Blackwater. So this is the big episode of season 2, all based in King's Landing. And make sure to check out Drinks and Nose, as they have got over the Hodor episode now, so they're on 606, which is, I can't remember the name of that, but they're on episode 6, season 6, and yeah, to join them with, I believe they have penciled in Sanrixian for that one, so that should be a good one with all of her drawings. So yeah, you can find Ben and Snow's there. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, check out Alicia Kingston and Sly the Tank Benjamin as well. You'll see AK around everywhere. We're gonna get her up here again. Check out Miss Cronall's Nail channel. She also has a Game of Thrones channel where she does the rereads. Septuagint Secrets has a really fantastic Game of Thrones channel as well. Let's see who else. Sly the Tank Benjamin has him a channel as well, and it's working up. It's a very good channel, very fun. Living My Rhapsody has a great channel. Go check it out. Chrissy of Old Stones for sure. She does fantastic readings. Check out her channel. And I think that's all the channels. Don't kill me, anyone, if I haven't said that. Don't turn me into a Johnny Pie.
Yeah. Well, you can find Bobby on Cylon John. So she may not have her own channel, but she kind of is with us and stuff. And it's up to Shayna Secrets as well. They have good theories as well. I've been told by Luke that it is Blood of My Blood. That is that episode. So
It says blood of my clud.
then,
Anyways, making fun of Fleeps.
yeah.
Love y'all.
So with that, we will see you all next episode for the penultimate episode of season 2. We're already here. Okay. Bye, everyone.